For 2 years, he was my mentor, a genius of science whom I idolized. And for 2 years, he stole every idea, every discovery, every drop of my sweat. When he tried to steal my life's work to win the biggest award in our field, he thought I was just a helpless student who would stay silent. But he forgot about one small detail, a document I had kept, tucked away in a forgotten file, that not only proved everything was mine but also guaranteed the end of his fraudulent career. Ever since I started my biology degree, I had one hero, Dr. Alencar. He was a legend in the field of genetics, a brilliant researcher with publications in every major journal. Getting a spot as his research assistant for my master's degree was like winning the lottery. I felt like the luckiest person in the world. In the beginning, everything was perfect. He was an incredible mentor, encouraging and full of ideas. I spent my days and nights in the lab, completely immersed in our research on cell regeneration in rare species of salamanders. The original idea for the research was mine, a concept I developed in my undergraduate thesis, but it was under his guidance that it began to take shape. I was naive. I thought science was a pure meritocracy, where the best ideas won. I didn't realize that, for Dr. Alencar, my ideas were just raw material. The first time I felt a pang of discomfort was at a regional conference. I had made a small but significant discovery about a specific protein. I presented my findings to him, excited. The following week, at the conference, he presented my discovery in his lecture as if it were his own. I was in the audience, paralyzed. When I questioned him about it, he smiled paternally. "Julia, we're a team. The success of the project is what matters. It's unseemly for a senior researcher to have to credit an assistant for every little step." I felt ashamed and accepted the explanation. After all, he was Dr. Alencar. He must know how things worked. But the little steps became leaps. Every breakthrough I made, every hypothesis I proved, was quickly absorbed by him and presented to the world as his. My name appeared in the papers, yes, but always second or third, the name of a supporting character. My colleagues warned me. "Julia, he's using you," they'd say. But I was scared. My entire career, my chances of getting a PhD, the letters of recommendation, everything depended on him. Challenging him seemed like academic suicide. So, I kept working, telling myself my time would come. The situation reached its peak when I finally achieved what we were looking for. I isolated the gene responsible for complete limb regeneration. It was a monumental discovery, with the potential to change medicine. I ran to his office, with the printed data, my heart pounding. He looked at the results, and his eyes lit up in a way I'll never forget. It wasn't the glow of scientific discovery, it was the glow of pure ambition. "Congratulations, Julia," he said, his voice calm. "You've done excellent work as my assistant." The following week, he called me for a meeting. "Julia, I have great news," he began. "Based on my recent findings, I am submitting our research for the International Bioscience Prize. It's the biggest award in our field." I felt a flicker of hope. "Our research? So my name will be on the submission?" He hesitated, and his smile became forced. "You see, the prize committee values the clarity and impact of a single primary author. The submission will be in my name. But don't worry," he added quickly, seeing the shock on my face. "I will be sure to mention you in my acceptance speech." A mention in his acceptance speech. The words echoed in my head like an insult. 2 years of my life, my idea, my tireless work, reduced to a footnote in his victory speech. In that moment, something inside me broke. The fear, the admiration, the hope, it all transformed into a cold, silent rage. I left his office without a word, went to my small cubicle in the lab, and broke down. I cried for hours, not from sadness, but from pure frustration and helplessness. I felt completely trapped. If I spoke up, he would destroy me. He would use his influence to label me as a problematic, hysterical, and deceitful student. If I stayed silent, I would die inside, watching him steal my life's work. I spent the weekend in a fog of despair, sifting through emails, notes, anything that could help me, but everything seemed circumstantial. It was his word, a giant of science, against mine, a master's student. Who would believe me? It was on Sunday night, while clearing out a pile of old papers to throw away, that I saw it. It was a thin folder, labeled, Initial Research Proposal, Ethics Committee. I barely remembered it. It was a document every researcher had to submit before starting any project, a bureaucratic form detailing the hypothesis, methodology, and research objectives. I had filled it out and submitted it 2 years ago, before Dr. Alencar was even officially assigned as my supervisor. I opened the folder with trembling hands. And there it was. 20 pages detailing, with frightening precision, the entire scope of my research. The original hypothesis about the specific gene, the methodology I planned to use, the expected outcomes. Everything. And on the last page, the official university stamp with the date, 2 years and 3 months ago. On top of that, I had my lab notebooks. From day one, I had meticulously recorded everything, every experiment, every failure, every small victory, all dated. They were hundreds of pages that told the story of my journey, a story that began long before Dr. Alencar had even mentioned the word salamander to me. I had the proof. It wasn't just my word against his. It was my official, dated, and registered documentation against his greed. On Monday, I didn't go to the lab. I put on the most professional outfit I owned and went straight to the administration building. I requested a meeting with Dr. Isabel, the Dean of Research. She was a formidable woman, a world-renowned immunologist, known for her implacable integrity and her aversion to inflated egos. I was terrified, but the alternative, doing nothing, was far worse. I waited for almost an hour in her anteroom, my stomach churning. Finally, her secretary called me in. I entered Dr. Isabel's imposing office, and she looked at me over her glasses. "Miss Matos," she said, her voice crisp. "To what do I owe the honor? I hope this isn't a complaint about your advisor. Dr. Alencar is one of our most valuable researchers." My heart sank. For a moment, I thought about backing down, apologizing, and running out. But then I looked at the folder in my hands, the proof of my work. I took a deep breath. "Doctor," I said, my voice coming out steadier than I expected. "It's exactly about Dr. Alencar that I need to speak. And I have documents that prove that your most valuable researcher is, in fact, a fraud." Dr. Isabel raised an eyebrow, a mix of skepticism and curiosity in her eyes. She gestured for me to sit. For 20 minutes, I laid out my case. Not with emotion, but with facts. I placed the dated research proposal on her desk. I opened my lab notebooks, showing the progression of my work over 2 years. I showed the emails in which I presented my findings to Dr. Alencar, followed by articles and presentations where he claimed them as his own. I presented a cold, undeniable timeline of intellectual appropriation. Dr. Isabel listened in silence, examining each document with meticulous attention. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and stared at me for a long time. The silence was deafening. "Miss Matos," she said finally. "These are extremely serious accusations. Do you understand the consequences of what you're doing?" "Yes, ma'am." "I do," I replied. "But I also understand the consequences of doing nothing." She nodded slowly. "Leave this documentation with me. I will initiate a formal academic integrity investigation. Until a decision is made, I ask that you maintain absolute discretion. Do not speak about this with anyone, especially not Dr. Alencar. He will be notified through official channels." I left her office feeling a strange mixture of terror and relief. The die was cast. In the following days, the lab became a place of suffocating tension. Dr. Alencar was notified of the investigation, and although he didn't know I was the one who reported him, the atmosphere changed. He treated me with a cutting coldness, clearly suspicious of everyone around him. He tried to intimidate me subtly, making comments about how disloyalty was the worst sin in the academic world. I kept my head down and continued my work, counting the minutes until it was all over. The investigation was swift and rigorous. A committee was formed, and I was called to testify. I presented my case again, this time to a panel of professors from different departments. They asked tough questions, testing every detail of my story. But the documents spoke for themselves. The decisive moment was when they called in Dr. Alencar. I later learned from a committee member what happened. He walked into the room with his usual arrogance, treating the investigation as an annoyance, a misunderstanding caused by overly ambitious research assistants. He denied everything, claiming the original idea was his and that I had merely executed his orders. Then, Dr. Isabel, who was chairing the committee, placed my original research proposal in front of him. Dr. Alencar, could you explain to us how Miss Matos described, in detail, in this dated proposal, a line of research that you claim to have conceived 6 months later? He turned pale. He stammered, trying to say they had discussed the ideas informally, but the date on the university stamp was irrefutable. His lie crumbled in real time. The committee's conclusion was unanimous and devastating for him. Dr. Alencar was found guilty of multiple violations of academic conduct, including plagiarism and appropriation of research. The recommendation was the most severe possible, the revocation of his tenure and his immediate dismissal from the university. The news hit the campus like a bomb. The revered genius was a fraud. His submission for the International Bioscience Prize was withdrawn by the university. In its place, the institution submitted a new one, in my name, as the sole author and principal investigator. I was called back to Dr. Isabel's office. Julia, she said, and it was the first time she used my first name. What Dr. Alencar did was a failure not only on his part, but of a system that sometimes allows power to silence talent. On behalf of the university, I apologize. She then made me an offer that would change my life. The university would offer me a full PhD scholarship and the funding to establish and lead my own small research lab to continue my work. I would no longer be anyone's assistant. I would be the boss. The transition was surreal. Suddenly, I had my own space, my own team, my own budget. Former colleagues who were once afraid to speak to me now congratulated me in the hallways. The fear I had felt was replaced by a sense of responsibility and a dizzying freedom. Dr. Alencar disappeared from academic life. I heard he tried to find a position at another institution, but the scandal had made him radioactive. The last I heard of him, he was working as a consultant for a pharmaceutical company, a shadow of the intellectual giant he once seemed to be. A few months later, I received an email. The subject line was, International Bioscience Prize. With trembling hands, I opened it. I had won. I traveled to Stockholm for the ceremony. On stage, holding the award, I looked out at the audience of renowned scientists and thought about the journey that had brought me there. I thought about the fear, the doubt, but also the strength I found when I decided to fight for the truth. In my speech, I thanked my family, my new colleagues, and Dr. Isabel. And then, I said, I dedicate this award to all the young researchers, all the assistants, all those who work silently behind the scenes of science. May your work never be invisible. May your voice never be silenced. Looking back, I realized that what happened was painful, but it was also my liberation. It taught me that true authority doesn't come from a title or a position, but from the integrity of your work. It taught me that even when we feel small and powerless, documented truth is a powerful weapon. Today, I lead my own team, and I make sure that every member, from the intern to the postdoc, receives the credit they deserve. My lab is built on a simple principle: science is collaborative, and success belongs to everyone. My revenge on Dr. Alencar wasn't watching him fall. It was proving that his model of science, based on ego and exploitation, was wrong. My victory was building something new, a place where talent can flourish without fear. And that, I've discovered, is the greatest breakthrough of all.